Good afternoon. I'm Teresa Alpert, a member of AOPA's Committee for Access, Representation, and Empowerment. Founded in 2022 as the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, and renamed this year the Committee for Access, Representation, and Empowerment, is AOPA's newest. During its first year, it established its vision as well as potential ways it could support the membership. The vision, through its members, AOPA has a multitude of backgrounds, experience, perspectives, cultures, and diverse thought patterns that allows for creativity, growth, innovation in a safe and inclusive environment. Our diverse experiences will enable us to better understand our concerns and create solutions. The goal of the committee is to recognize all differences brought to the organization and create a culture where all feel that they matter, are respected, and belong. We support all members as well as share resources for professional and personal growth. Then in 2023, it issued a member-wide survey to confirm what the membership would find valuable. The committee is now executing what was heard, could support the membership by providing education and resources. To this end, for the past year, we have been hosting educational activities every quarter. We have also been working to include resources in the O&P Almanac. Today, I'm excited to welcome you to part 2 of our 4th educational offering. In part 1 of our Fireside chat on mentoring, we covered the mentorship basics and how it improves the O&P profession. During part 2, the speakers will highlight the personal and professional impacts mentorship has had on them, explore how their mentor-mentee relationship furthered their leadership, promoted their growth, and strengthened their clinical practices, all to provide you with actionable takeaways for both seeking and providing mentorship. I'd now like to turn it over to today's moderator, AOPA's Interim Executive Director, Terry Cuffell. In addition to being AOPA's Interim Executive Director, Terry is also Vice President and founding co-owner of Arise Orthotics and Prosthetics, Inc., where she controls and manages all business operations. She earned her Juris Doctorate from Mitchell Hamlin College of Law in St. Paul, Minnesota. She served on the AOPA board for 8 years, including president from 2022 to 23. Terry serves as a director on the boards of the Minnesota Society of Orthotists, Prosthetists, and Podorthists, and Wiggle Your Toes, an amputee nonprofit organization. She's also an instructor for the master's program in prosthetics and orthotics at Concordia University. Sorry about that, Terry, in St. Paul, Minnesota. And she's worked in the O&P industry with contract human resources, compliance, and organizational management since 1999. Without any further ado, I turn it over to you, Terry. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. I appreciate that warm introduction, and it's really so nice to be here again for part 2 of this series. Good afternoon to everyone. It is my pleasure to moderate today's session, Fireside Chat Part 2. Part 1 was just so wonderful, and it really filled up our cups. And I know Part 2 is going to be equally as wonderful. It is great to have each and every one of you with us today, so thank you for joining us. And before we get into the discussion and the questions, let me first introduce our 2 speakers. We have Aman Peoples, CPO. Aman is an ABC certified prosthetist orthotist for Hanger Clinic in Albuquerque and Rio Rancho, New Mexico. As a clinician with more than 19 years of experience, Aman specializes in upper and lower limb prosthetics and orthotic bracing, working primarily with teenagers through adult patients. His focus includes advanced technologies such as myoelectric and microprocessor systems, as well as addressing neurological cases and upper limb prostheses. Driven by a passion for improving patient outcomes, Aman develops innovative prosthetic designs tailored to everyone. He is committed to fostering strong, ongoing relationships with his patients, empowering them to achieve their goals and enhance their quality of life. And also we have Alan Roning. Alan is an ABC certified pit orthist and orthotic fitter for Hanger Clinic in Flagstaff, Arizona. As a clinician with more than 20 years of experience, his passion is creating orthotic devices to accommodate ankle foot deformities and assist in the process of improving the quality of life for each patient he serves. Driven by a passion to serve others, he is all about patient outcomes, strong patient relationships, and a healthy work life balance. Oh, that's so important. Thank you both for being here, Aman and Alan. Now let's get into why we're all here. The conversation about mentoring. As you are listening to and have any questions, please type them into the chat, and we will do our best to answer them during the audience Q&A. So, question number one, here we go. I'm going to ask Alan first, if that's okay. Can you
Sure.
share what first inspired you to take on a mentorship role?
Well, it's actually pretty easy. I had amazing mentors, and early on, it was that person was pouring their knowledge and the wealth of knowledge into me, and his expectation at the time was that I would repay it forward. So that was very easy.
Yeah,
So
that's great.
yeah.
Uh, Aman, the same question. Can you share what inspired you to take on a mentorship role?
Uh, Very similar to what Alan was saying. When I first started, I wanted to learn as much as I could and then pay it forward. And for the most part, all the mentors I've had, not just residency directors, teachers, and then different clinics I've been in, have all been very helpful in educating me and showing me different ways to approach things, different ways to look at things. So um, I definitely want to make sure that can be paid forward.
Yeah, great. Both of you. Thank you so much for choosing mentorship. Aman, we'll stay with you in this next question. What were you looking for in a mentor, and how did you find the right fit?
So that was actually a very lengthy process. I don't know if people on here remember, but AOPA used to send out those books, like phone books that had all of the different uh, ABC accredited facilities. And I basically picked all the states that I wanted, called each individual one, did research on the company, did research on the practitioner, like the lead, to find out, is this a good fit? Is this the area I want to live in? And then was kind of told you might want to go for a couple days just to sit in the environment and just be there,
Mhm.
observe, listen, see what your thoughts are on it. And once I found a good fit with someone who kind of pushed me back, it wasn't just, okay, you're going to be doing this. It was like, all right, how would you approach this? It was almost like a working job interview.
Oh,
And that's where I knew, okay, this is the spot I need to be in, because they're going to push me to grow, not just observe.
hmm. That's great. Let's go back to Alan. How did your mentorship relationship begin, and what helped it grow into a successful connection?
Well, Amon and I worked. He was a resident um, at a different company, and I was actually in a different office. So my offices were in a hospital setting, and his was detached in a standalone facility. And went down and introduced myself as the leader for my group, and I wanted to meet Aman because he was our new resident. So it just kind of snowballed from there, really. And yeah, we just struck up a casual conversation, and that's how it just kind of snowballed. And to this day, we don't speak near as much as we used to, but I still think about him.
Yeah. So, Aman, how did your mentorship relationship begin, and what helped it grow into the successful connection?
Well, like Alan said, we worked in different offices up until we relocated my office to the main hospital, one of the other branches. And one of the things when Alan kind of started working with me, introducing me to the hospital networking system and the nurses, the staff, the docs, he's like, you have to relax a little bit. I was very intense back then because I wanted to learn everything. I wanted to like, let's go, let's go, let's go. And he's like, dude, just chill. It'll come. You don't need to rush it. So that was one of the big takeaways is okay, I need to, it will come. It takes patience. You can't learn everything in a week or a day. So to just kind of take a step back, breathe, and just work through it as it comes.
Well, I think you probably answered the next question already, but I'll pose it to Aman. What was one of the most valuable pieces of advice or additional advice to what you've mentioned or support that Alan gave to you?
Yeah, that I guess I did answer, but yeah, it was just kind of relaxing and to uh, enjoy what you're doing. Like you went to school, you learned all this information, you're hopefully in it for life. So just enjoy it and you're going to be here for a while, so you might as well just kind of relax because it wasn't just Alan that was over me, it was also my clinical director, CPO. So they both had very different teaching methods. One was more intense and then one was a little bit more relaxed, and depending on the situation I need to adjust accordingly.
Uh, sure. All right. And so to Alan as mentor, how has mentoring impacted your own professional development and perspectives of O&P?
Well, my dad taught me at a very young age that I have two ears and one mouth and they should be used accordingly. And so going into like the mentoring, that's always stuck with me. And that's one of the things that I've kind of relayed to in just meeting with everyday people in our office, coworkers, and it's the same principle, really. It's just you've got two ears and one mouth. If you be quiet long enough, the patient's going to tell you what's really going on, and then biomechanically, you kind of know which route you need to go. Does that answer the question?
Yeah,
I think.
yeah. You say that that's something that my husband says all the time, to our children, to our colleagues, to me, it's just great words of wisdom. Thank you for sharing them, Alan. Okay, so to both of you, we'll stay with Alan and then go to Aman. Can you share a specific challenge you navigated together and what you learned from it?
Specific challenges, I think early on with Amon and myself, early on it was to what Amon said earlier is I'm very laid back. There's not a whole lot that gets me going. When I'm there, yeah, I'm there. And sometimes I make some poor choices. But um, the clinical director was really intense. And so I, I, I kind of digressed. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. A
Some of the
specific
challenges.
challenge. Yeah.
So the specific challenges, it was more geographical
Hmm.
for Amon and myself until we built another office and then moved his office up into the other hospital. So early on, we had those geographical changes, but also the different personalities. And so it was really trying to, it was just trying to find common ground, for
Oh,
lack
yeah,
of a
sure.
better word,
Hmm.
because I'm laid back. The other guy's, he's amazing. He's an amazing clinician, but he's also super intense. And so it was for me, and dealing with Amon and his personality, it was he was like this sponge, and it was just always wanting to absorb it. I was like, dude, just chill out. We got this. I won't let you fall. I promise.
Yeah,
So I
sure.
think early on that's kind of some of my navigational pitfalls were just locations and just learning different personality types.
Yeah. All right. Aman, your turn. Can you share a specific challenge you navigated together and what you learned from it?
Um, Trying to manage multiple clinics at one time was difficult and challenging. So in the hospital system, we had, I think, 5 or 6 hospitals we had to go to. And then I also had to cover some in like Tacoma area, so south of Seattle. So one of the challenges I had was staying organized, knowing which charts went to which office because we were still doing paper charts back then. Um, how to collect, how to document, and uh, what staff was available at some of those clinics because sometimes it was just me by myself. A lot of times, actually, it was just me by myself in the further out clinic. So, being able to call Alan and say, "Hey, how do I do this, or where is this normally located?" Who's a doc I can talk to about this diagnosis? I'm not sure, and just being available to talk on the phone sometimes, even if he couldn't be in person or if he was in a different office, was super helpful as far as learning how to manage multiple clinics and then just kind of um, taking it as it came, if that makes sense. Not stressing about it, not taking multiple charts home. I mean, I did still do that, but not stacks of charts. It might be 1 or 2 that I need to finish up versus, 20 or 30.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So, Aman, we're going to stay here with you, but this question will be for both of you. In what ways has the mentorship relationship influenced your understanding of the O&P profession?
So, funny enough, Alan and the other clinical director used to joke about what you learn in school and what you actually see depending on the practice you're in. They teach you a lot of the basics, which is great, but a lot of the interaction skills with doctors and nurses, you kind of learn on the fly a little bit, So being able to communicate clearly, you know, and confidently what your brace design is, what your prosthetic design is going to be, your treatment plan for the patient, follow up care, all those post operative care. I kind of had to learn in that setting. It wasn't really expressed like how do you learn that? How do you talk with a doctor when you go to the hospital floor? What do you do? So um, communicating and being more open to talking through that stuff was a big one. And just being present with the patient more, and not thinking about the device I'm trying to fit, figuring out what is the patient going to accept to wear, like Alan said earlier, just sit there and listen with the patient for a little bit, and then you can kind of start making decisions after that. So I got probably after a couple of years, I would stop bringing the chart in with me, and I would just put it aside and just listen. And then I'd step out and then write down some notes, and then we'd go back to why we're actually here.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you for sharing that. Alan, same question. In what ways has the mentorship relationship influenced your understanding of the O&P profession?
For me, and it's not a struggle, but the mentorship process, it really is, even today, probably not as much today as it say earlier on in my career, but there used to be, and there still can be at times, like this divide between BOC and ABC and who's better. Um, and so for me, it's just again, it goes back to personalities and wanting to absorb from solid mentors and wanting to teach and knowing that there's really nothing wrong with a BOC clinician. A lot of them are actually, in my opinion, because they're old school on the job trained, they may not possess the book smarts, but you dang sure know they're going to come across the table with a whole ton of knowledge. And so part of this whole mentorship thing was gleaning bits and pieces from everybody and then
Mhm.
soaking it all in and then being able to deliver what I learned to whomever. I mean, it could just be a coworker, it could be somebody fresh out of school,
Mhm.
and so that's been exciting. At first, when I was younger, I used to get so frustrated with that divide, and it's just this is ridiculous. If it's about patient care, let it be about patient care. I could give a rip about where you got your certification from, but if we're in this together for patient care, let's leave it for patient care.
Sure. Yeah, I hear that loud and clear. Keeping the
Yeah,
patient first and our care centered around the patient.
right.
Um, yeah, we've gone through all kinds of different phases of education in the last 30, 40 years in O&P and certifications. So nice that we are here today with, even now graduate students and just all different levels. And
Yeah,
are um, we are encouraged by the leaders of our community and the historic different credentialing systems and educational systems that we've had that it brought us to where we are today. So thankful for everyone, certainly in the profession.
yeah.
So I'll stay with you, Alan. What do you believe makes a mentorship relationship truly impactful or even transformative?
I think you have to be open and honest, and you have to be open to, you know, different ideas. And it doesn't matter if you're a 30-year practicing clinician or somebody that just passed the boards and is now legitimate. Um, you just have to be open. You have to be open because technology changes, and I'm middle aged, but the young bucks are so much more technologically sound than I am. So for me, it's just being open and honest and admitting, hey, I don't know that.
Right.
Can you teach me?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's that is
Yeah.
so that's that for me. That's what's truly been most impactful for me, and how I practice is just to be open and honest
Mhm.
and just listen.
Yeah, continuously learning. We talk
Yes.
about that a lot in our practice. Aman, same question. What do you believe makes a mentorship relationship truly impactful or even transformative?
Um, Kind of piggybacking a little bit on what Alan said, but I would say truthfulness and transparency. I know I'm kind of at the age where I'm in that middle group, so a lot of the very seasoned older clinicians kept a lot of their styles, practices to themselves, and maybe are just now starting to share them. So a lot of the techniques, I've been at other practices and I've seen other techniques, but I was never shown how to do it. So I either had to figure it out myself and unwind it, or just try to figure out how I could do it a different way. But you know, being honest about, like you said, if you don't know something, just say, okay, I'll get back to you. Let me look that up. Or just say, why don't you try it your way and see what happens? You may discover a new way of doing something, and then we can build on that. We learn from the fault of that. And then kind of transparency of like I said, being understanding you don't know everything. And in an ever evolving, changing field, it's okay. You don't have to know everything. But if you know the right people, after you've been in it for years, you know different people that you can connect to that can always get you an answer. So that's always cool to see now.
Hmm. Yeah. All right, great. So I'm going to go back to Alan as the mentor. What leadership qualities do you try to cultivate in your mentees?
And it comes back to listening. You have to be open, and you have to be I love that word, transparency. You have to be transparent, and you need to, yeah, it just really comes down to listening, and you have to be open for feedback, whether it's constructive criticism or praises. You can't have it both ways. You're not going to win every single time with a patient, and you're not going to win every single time with a relationship inside your office, or even if you're precepting somebody. So it just comes down to listening, and taking the emotion out of it, and going back to, hey, this is what I heard you say. Can you clarify that for me? So it really comes down to listening.
Great advice. Thank you. To Aman, as the mentee, how have you grown as a leader through this relationship, and how do you plan to pay it forward?
So I have early in my career at Hanger, and even when I was at a private practice in Texas, I started doing post-operative care, kind of, I would say building on it. But I learned a lot of techniques when I was in Washington with Alan, and going to do rigid removal dressings in the OR. And he and our other director used to literally get a mold from me, set it in the office, and like, all right, we need you to wrap this in 5 minutes, set, because the what's the other doctor? Anesthesiologist is bringing the
Yeah.
patient awake. So basically, you're going in, you've got 5 to 10 minutes to get them set, wrapped, and then you need to be out. So that was intimidating for me. So I spent a lot of time at the office at night, like for a left leg, you wrap this way, for a right leg, you write this way. Long leg, short leg, Symes, whatever. Upper extremity was another tricky one, but just practicing that repetitively, so that when I did come to Hanger, and we started presenting some of these topics to doctors, and funny enough, not too many people still do fiberglass or plaster casts on this side of the world anymore, but no, having the knowledge of how to ace wrap properly, and and what's the next step after you initially see the patient in the OR? Where's your follow-up care plan? So that's been something I think has been very helpful in paying it forward, as far as what I show residents that come in, and students, because that one got drilled in my head. Out of probably everything else I learned, that was probably drilled in the most.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. We're going to stay with Aman, and we're going to talk a little bit about leadership now. So, how has this mentorship relationship helped develop leadership skills, either formally or informally?
Um, so I have started kind of taking on more specific roles. So like I'm an upper limb clinician now. Upper limb used to very much intimidate me early on. And now I see a lot of upper limb. Same with a lot of these complex orthotic cases where, you know, Alan would just tell me, just go in there and just sit and talk with the patient. You don't have to have a plan going in, just listen, and then say, let's reconvene. Let's come back. Let me do some research on a brace design I think will work for you. Give yourself some space, which is something I've done when I do presentations at the rehabs for neuro patients, and even upper limb patients. As far as official leader, like, manager, I tried that for a little bit, and I found that it wasn't really for me. I was a manager for an office for a little bit, and it's different between being a leader and a boss, right? Like being a leader, I can be in the same role I'm in, and share knowledge, educate patients, but I don't have to worry about so much um, the financial burden and all the other stuff. I
Oh,
can just work.
yeah, good point.
Whereas as a boss, I'm going to have to be more cognizant. I wouldn't say I don't have to be cognizant at all, but I have to be more cognizant as a boss. Um, Manage different personalities, things of that nature. So I did try it for a year or two, and it didn't suit me. It could have been the company I was with too, but I like better where I'm at and how I can pay it forward.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you for sharing those details. And we're going to go back to Alan with the same question. How has this mentorship relationship helped develop your leadership skills, either formally or informally?
I think the mentorship part of it has really kind of taught me patience, um, formally and informally. Going back to listening and just being open. Um, yeah, it's really taught me patience. And so I've actually been able to use that both in my personal and professional life. It's just before, I was a different person at work versus when I'm at home. I've got five little ones running around and blah, 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 blah. So, at work, I'm pretty laid back. And when I get home and you open the door and you get this explosion, it's like, whoa. So the mentorship process, to bring it around, the mentorship process for me has really kind of taught me patience. And you have to practice what you preach. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, so true. So true. Alan, we're going to stay with you. And as the mentor, how did you or do you guide Aman and other mentees through the balance of the technical skill development and the compassionate patient care development?
well, for Aman, it was because Aman is super, super intelligent. And I'm not throwing you under the bus. It's not meant as a negative. Aman is an overthinker. And knowing that about him, words mean something. So in speaking with Aman, you had to be very clear, very concise. Um, and so when he and I started working more together, he'd said it earlier. It's like, dude, just slow down. Slow down. This stuff will come. It's going to come organically. It's going to take repetition. And so that was one of the things that we worked on, and hand skills and casting, because part of my background was I was a cast tech. So I'm very good at rolling casts. It doesn't matter if it's a AK stump cast, VK stump cast, a short leg, long leg cast. It doesn't matter. I can do them with my eyes shut. Well, I didn't learn that overnight. And so Amon used to really get stressed out when it came to casting. And so we worked on it. And he did have this dummy leg that he would roll casts over and over. And now I sit back and we talk as friends. And now I'm asking him more questions. Hey, listen, I've got this patient. How would you handle it? Because he's so smart and he's had different experiences in different regions. And as we all know, physicians come from different regions, they come from different backgrounds. And so somebody from Kentucky may be in Texas with them on down there, and he learned something that way. And so now I'm struggling. So now I get to call them on and say, hey, listen, this is what I've got going on. Take a look at this picture. What would you do? And so it's just kind of come full circle. And for me now, I get to pick his brain because he's had way more experiences than I have because my certification limits me. So
Yeah.
it's been
Wow.
really awesome.
Yeah. Oh, that's just so wonderful. Thank you for sharing in such detail. So Aman, back to you. Was there a particular clinical insight or lesson that has stuck with you over the years, thanks to Alan?
Insight or lesson? Um, I would say the intensity has gone down a little bit. It's still there because that's a drive. It's still there. Um, but no, but being able to not take it home with you, I think that's important to try to mitigate, if not separate, work and home life balance. Um, Back when I was a resident, I mean, I didn't have anyone up there with me; it was just me. So it wasn't a big deal for me to work from 8 until 8 at night. And it doesn't necessarily mean I was seeing patients. I could have been modifying molds. I could have been doing hospital calls, whatever. But whatever, as a sponge, I could learn. And if that meant I stayed till 8, I stayed till 8. Um, but now that enough time has passed, I have a daughter, fiance, and being able to separate that and be like, all right, I need to leave here at 5 to get home to just relax and enjoy that separate time. Um, and then tone down some of that intensity has been, I think, a big thing. I'm still working on it. It's never there where I think it should be, but it's been helpful to think through that.
All right, well, we'll go to a little bit different level now with ethical dilemmas. So, how did, and we'll stay with Aman first, how did the mentorship relationship help you navigate the clinical realities of O&P care, like tough patient cases that may include ethical dilemmas? Any examples there?
Ethical dilemmas. That's a good one. Um, yeah, that's a tough one. I can't think of any specific examples as far as like ethical dilemmas. Alan might remember more, but I know uh,
What about just
following
tough
those.
patient cases?
Yeah, I was thinking more like following SNF guidelines. A lot
Mm.
of times they want stuff. Now they're like, well, you have to pay for this. Well, can't you just deliver it and not date it until they hit 100 days? Like, well, no, that's that's wrong. It's fraud. I know there's a lot of cases of that as we started kind of growing our practice in Washington and going to from hospitals to nursing homes to rehabs. Um, but I know like the first KFO that I had, first custom KFO I had, I should say, was a difficult patient in a different clinic. So I didn't have my tools. I didn't have any of the stuff that I would normally have to do an evaluation. And I was, very nervous about what do I do? How do I approach this? And Alan, I think Alan came with me that appointment because he had to speak with a doctor about a different situation. So I was able to kind of just go up there with him, see the patient in rehab, talk with the director, talk through what plan I thought we should follow. Took pictures because I honestly at that time didn't have a plan, but took pictures, watched her walk, took some videos, and then sat down and I could kind of really take time to think through it instead of just, gunshot. What is this going to be? Um, so that was a tough case. And then, like I said, the nursing home thing, which I think we all deal with, is trying to navigate doing something right, even though you may take a hit and not get that patient, may not get that monetary value, but in the long run, you can sleep better because you didn't commit fraud essentially.
Yeah, great. Well, it's a great example. So we're going to go back to Alan then, see if do you have anything to share? And the question was, how did your mentorship help you navigate the clinical realities of O&P? Like, if, for example, a tough patient case or an ethical dilemma.
I have one, and it's stuck with me my whole career. When I stepped into a leadership role, when Amon and I worked at this company, um, I had a terminal patient in the hospital, and he was basically on palliative care. And we had a script for a custom TLSO, and this poor soul isn't going to be around much longer. Um, too weak to get out of bed. So corporate's wanting to know why I haven't done anything for this patient. And so much so, and you may even remember this, Amon. It was our O&P director actually flew up and was upset with me. He was already in the area, but he was upset with me because I wasn't going to fill this TLSO prescription. I mean, can you bill for it? Sure, we can. But the patient's not going to be here much longer, and he's not getting out of bed. So I'm not going to do this. it's going to serve no purpose. And this individual was extremely upset with me. And, I don't, like I said, early on, I don't always choose my verbiage correctly. And I came uncorked. And, it was basically, I put it back. When was the last time you sat at the patient's bedside and cried with the patient because you knew he or she is terminal, and there's really nothing that you're going to be able to provide for this patient that's going to ease that pain? Because you're not dealing with just the physical, you're also dealing with the mental, the depression, and so I've had that has always stuck with me. And I may not be articulating it very well, but just because you have a prescription that allows you to march forward, should you? And for me, I'm not going to put money over a patient. I will choose a patient every single time. So
Yeah.
that's
Thank you
it for
for
me.
sharing that, Alan. Um, really, from your heart, thank you for sharing that example. Um, I'm going to ask you another question. We'll stay right here. What advice would you give to other professionals who are considering becoming a mentor?
I would check your heart. Is your heart in the right place? Are you teaching because you want the next generation to succeed? Or are you doing this because you want to be patted on the back and stroke your ego?
Hmm.
Because unfortunately, in our profession, there's a lot of that. There are a lot of, and I wouldn't change it for the world. But if it's a job, you're going to be miserable. And I'm grateful to get to say that I honestly feel like I haven't worked a day in my life
Oh,
since 2004 when I started. And I get paid to come play with my hands and have a good time, meet new people like Aman and others. Um, Met some amazing people, and I feel it's amazing because I honestly get to say that I feel like I've never worked a day in my life.
yeah,
So it would be back to them: is your heart pure? I mean, are you doing this for the right reasons?
yeah. What a
Because if you're
great
stroking your
statement.
ego, you're not going to last long.
Yeah, what a great statement. We talk a lot about, try to do what you love, right? Try to
Yeah,
turn your passions into your work and
yeah.
your life's work and your employment. So that's a beautiful statement, and thank you for sharing that. Um, Aman, so to you as the mentee, what would you say to someone new in the field who's potentially hesitant to seek out a mentor? Yeah, to Aman.
No, no.
Oh,
Can you hear me?
can we hear you?
Can you hear it all?
Yeah, there you go. You're back.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I said, do you want me to follow that? That was too good
I
of an
know.
answer. I can't get out of here with that. Um, so your question, I'm sorry, was
I
what's
know.
my
All
advice?
right. Take a break, right? Take a minute to digest that. What would you say to someone new to the field who's hesitant maybe to seek out a mentor? What's your advice?
Hesitant. It's the best way to learn. It's one of the best ways to learn. One of the teachers I had in school, one of my best friends who opened up his own practice in Wisconsin, he was very business smart. He understood the business of everything. He had a business degree. Like he understood a lot of that. That was a little bit weaker for me, but the flip side was I was stronger clinically, and we were kind of opposite in that perspective. But I realized early on I could read all the books, memorize all the texts, and I literally have a library of OMP texts at home, and I've read through them multiple times to think through different cases. And at the end of the day, that's all great, but it's not hands on. It's not You're not in front of a patient. You're not dealing with, as Alan was talking about, some of the emotional and psychological things that you have to think through. and you're on a time limit in a lot of cases. So I think having a mentor or even being a mentor, it helps you grow as an individual in a way that you can't grow just reading books or watching videos. Um, it will force you out of your comfort zone for sure. And one of the things I learned early on is kind of sink or swim, at least in my residency. Because well, at one point there was a tipping point. Like, do I want to stay here? Do I need to go somewhere else? And ultimately, I thought on it for weeks, and it was, well, how bad do you want this? I mean, this is your education. This is your next 15, 20, 30, however long you want to be in the field. So, learn as much as you can. Learn from everyone you can. Doesn't matter what level they are, just take it all in, and then that way you can better prepare yourself.
Mhm. Okay, so this is my last question, and it's to both of you, and we'll stay with Aman and then we'll go to Alan. What are three qualities that make for a strong and healthy mentor-mentee relationship?
Three qualities.
We've talked about
Trust.
so many.
I know. I would say trust slash honesty. Transparency is a big one for me. And I, I'd say knowledge. Either the ability to find an answer or knowing the answer. I think a lot of the times when I was going through mentors, if they didn't have an answer, honestly, most of them would get me an answer within a day or two. I mean, or even call me in the middle of the night, like, oh, I just thought about this. And I have a notebook by my desk at night. So whenever I think of some random idea, I'll write it down and then think through it the next day. So, but yeah, those are my three. I would say trust slash honesty, knowledge, and transparency.
Yeah. Great. Thank you for sharing those. Alan, do you have three? We're looking
You
for,
stole my thunder.
I know. Okay. So I'm going to give you a little bit more time to think about it. What are three qualities that make for a strong and healthy mentor-mentee relationship?
Well, I'm just going to piggyback. I mean, you have to have the trust. You have to have the transparency.
Mhm.
You have to be willing to be open and honest. And, if you don't know, you don't know. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's it.
Beautiful. Wonderful. Well, thank you both. It's been really truly inspiring to sit and hear your passion for the relationship that you have shared over the years and for the way it has transformed you into the clinicians and the people that you are today. Thank you. We really appreciate you being your honesty and your transparency with all of us today as well. Are there any questions? I've opened up the chat and I don't see any, but now would be the time. You've covered all the bases. Okay, so I'm going to kick this back to Teresa.
Well, that was really amazing. Thank you, Alan, Amon, Terry, for moderating and guiding us through this. I've been a mentor and a mentee, and the gift is in the giving, right? It's like there's nothing greater than to see your students or your mentee surpass you. It really is an acknowledgement, right, Alan? It's like
Absolutely.
there's no greater joy. It's like a mother who sees their child go off to college and graduate. Um, and the new O&P world is so different than what we came up in. Um, we came up on the bench, we were side by side with our mentors. And we learned as we went along, Amon. It was a very different way of hands-on practicum 30 years ago as it is today. It wasn't so much, I mean, it was absolutely outcome based in everything we did, because we did it and we saw the results, right? But it wasn't based in all of this academia and research outcomes. And I've been in the university system for quite some time now and working with residents and fellows. And there's not a prouder moment than when you don't even know when you touch somebody by something you say. And years later, they send you a note that reminds you with gratitude that you said the slightest little thing that made a difference in their career years later. So it's just wonderful. I agree with everything that was said today. Hats off to you. I tell people interview your mentors. Don't be afraid to seek out who you want to be with. And don't settle. If the relationship isn't working, exit interview your mentor and go for someone else. It's important. It's a relationship that ebbs and flows, and people's lives change. And that's as equally as important as finding one is also exiting one that doesn't work. So I want to thank our panelists, Aman and Alan, as well as Terry for moderating, as I said. And I also want to thank all of you for attending. I hope you all walked away with some great ideas and strategies or plans for yourself, or either to be a mentor or to become a mentoree, to mentor or become a mentor. Stay tuned for our email with more information about the next educational opportunities from this committee. And be sure to check out the O&P Almanac for resources on today's webinar topic. And thank you again for being here, and have a great rest of your day. Appreciate all of you.
Can I say one more thing?
Please.
I'm super proud of you.
Thanks.
No, I'm being
Appreciate
serious.
it.
It's
I really
been
do.
really neat. It's been really neat watching you grow, bud.
Thank you. I really appreciate that a lot.
Of course. Don't make me cry. No, it's been really neat watching him because he's so good at what he does. So, all
Thank
right,
you
guys.
all.
Well, thanks.
Thank you.